Alright, hello and welcome back to the Ace Attorney Chronicles. Tonight we're going to be continuing Case 3, where we left off. Alright, last time we had just gotten a revelation there was indeed another person in the stagecoach. Sorry, I tripped over my own words there. Drawing a blank for some reason. But then a smoke bomb was fired off in the courtroom. What on earth just happened in there? Mr. Naruhodo, I managed to figure out what happened. Mr. Zato? I was told it was an advanced form of a smoke grenade. A type of exploding device that releases smoke. Smoke grenade? Sounds like a kind of thing ninjas use. They're just making sure everything is safe now. I think the trial's start again before long. But who would have done something like that? The police managed to catch someone who's trying to flee the courtroom, apparently. Flee the courtroom? Why? Well, it's a young girl around 15, I hear. A young girl. Could it be the other passenger Mr. McGilded was just talking about? My thoughts exactly. So he wasn't lying after all. Oh, what's become of Mr. McGilded? There's so many things to ask. I need to ask him about, but he's not here. I think he was summoned to the prosecutor's antechamber to answer some questions, along with the young girl. Who is she, I wonder? And what was she even doing here in the trial? She was taking a huge risk, and for what possible benefit to herself? There's no other matter that's troubling me. What's that? The, 20 pence. Oh, that. According to the coachman, Mr. Beppo. Oh, thank you for the follow, Allody. I play just about anything on this channel, so feel free to drop by anytime something catches your eye. Alright, he took 4 passengers that night at a fare of 5 pence each. That comes to a total of 20 pence exactly. But now it seems there are in fact 5 passengers, which means the figures don't seem to add up anymore. Yeah, that's right. Counsel for the defense, kindly proceed to the courtroom. Trial will recommence in 5 minutes. Oh, thank you, officer. We'll go in straight away. Well, whoever she is, I imagine this young girl will be asked to take the stand and testify now. I can't imagine what she's going to say, but it could alter the whole direction of the trial. We'll know soon enough, Mr. Zato. I doubt a young girl would murder him for absolutely no reason. Maybe he even took himself out. Actually, Old Bailey courtroom. Oh, there's a young girl next to her, Mr. McGilded. Look. Wait. She must have been the one who caused disturbance before. Well, after that rather eventful recess, the courts will now resume the trial of Mr. Magnus McGilded. Now then, Lord Van Zykes. My lord. I believe you have established the cause of the smoke which veiled proceedings earlier. It seems to have an advanced form of the smoke grenade, the type typically employed by the army. Good gracious, the army? What in the devil's name? How would someone get hold of something like that? It was an elaborate attempt by the young girl to cloak her escape from the public galley, but she was caught and now occupies the stand. I want to check something here. Do we get to see his hands? No, we do not. As I wondered, could he have been the one to have impaled himself? And if so, that might explain why the other person was reaching over to try and grab, then stop him, only for it to be too late. Perhaps try and save him. Your name, girl? Are you responsible for the smoke grenade which induced the pandemonium here in my courtroom? What is the meaning of this deplorable behavior? If I may, my lord. Yes, Mr. McGilded. I think perhaps I ought to explain, Ed, why it is this wee lass was here in the first place, and why she tried to bolt like that. She's all tied up with the events of last night, so it is. Very well, Mr. Gilded, please give your testimony. You will explain to the court exactly how this young woman is involved in the case. Just what did happen that night? It's not like a defense lawyer needs that information or anything. On the night in question, I took the back seat in the omnibus and promptly nodded off Then, a loud thud and wee scream woke me up with a fair start. There was this fella collapsed on the floor at my feet, so I sat up, him up on the seat across from me. I wanted to find out where the scream had come from. Bless my soul, what would I find? There was a child there, all curled up in a ball, hiding her wee self away. I remain somewhat baffled, I confess. From what I gather on the night in question, this young girl was indeed riding the omnibus, is that correct? This is exactly as the defense counsel said. The last was the fifth passenger, my lord. Very well, the defense may now cross-examine the witnesses. Are you ready, counsel? Yes, my lord. Or rather, no. I have no idea where to even start here. Cross-examination. The young girl. On the night in question, I took the back seat in the omnibus and promptly not. Hold it! Alright, so when you first got into the omnibus, were there any other passengers already on board? Oh, there were not. The cabin were empty and there was no one on the roof deck either. So you were the first passenger, as it were. I see. Why, that's why I took the back side as I did. It is the most comfortable, so it is. Could you explain exactly what you mean by the back seat? By all means, it is how you already described earlier. I'm talking about the seat opposite to the one in which the poor gentleman was stabbed and was sitting. Like I say, it is the most comfortable and where I feel most at ease. And of course, I enjoy gazing through the skylight from time to time as well. Hold it! Alright, so you heard a loud thud, you say, a scream? Boy, that's right, how can I explain it? It was like the sound of someone falling to the ground. That sort of noise. You think that was the sound of Mr. Mason falling to the floor then, having been stabbed? Well now, you'll remember I was asleep at the time, so I wouldn't like to say. And when the sound woke me and opened my eyes, there wasn't a soul to be seen in the carriage but the fellow on the floor. Oh, so you didn't see anyone, but the same moment you did hear a scream. Oh, from the seats above you on the roof deck, I presume. Oh, not above me, no, 'twas from inside the cabin. But I wasn't altogether thinking about the scream. No, I was too stunned by the desperate sight before my eyes. There was a fella collapsed on the floor at my feet, so I sat him up on the seat across from me. Then I turned to find out where the scream had come from, and bless my soul, what I find. Let's press him on everything, just see what he has to say. You sat him up, the victim, you mean? Oh, that I did, on the seat across from me, as I said. You could plainly see the poor devil was already gone. And you wouldn't leave a dead man just lying on the floor, now would you? That's tampering with a crime scene. Just common courtesy, so it is. I find that a little hard to believe. Ah, Bloodvine Zykes, now why would that be? You wake to find a man lying dead at your feet. Any normal person would hail the cabman. Any upstanding member of London society, that is. Well now, as you know, I'm in something of a special line of business. The business of lending money at exorbitant rates of interest, correct? Unfortunately, my lord, not everyone is thankful for the help I offer. Some would even see me dead. So I do try, where at all possible, to avoid getting myself in a tangle with trouble. Are you suggesting you were just going to leave the man there? Oh, heavens alive, no, I wasn't intending to report it, I was, only I don't mind to find out why and wherefores first. The why and wherefores. Alright, you are. There were some details I want to understand before anyone else got meddling. Wee scream I heard, for example. Wouldn't your good self just do the same? I suppose so, yeah. The scream he says he heard at the same time as the thud of the victim collapsing. Then I turned to find where the scream came from. Hold it! I'm afraid I don't understand. I'm sure you told the court that there was no one else in the carriage except yourself and the victim? Oh, so I did. As far as I could see, that is. What do you mean by that exactly? Well now, it is an odd thing. The wee scream I heard as I woke up. It came from, if you'll excuse the vulgar expression, under me backside. Good gracious. under your back. When I lifted the seat on which I'd been sitting, I found there's a cubbyhole for storage. We can examine the omnibus ourselves, remember? Oops, wrong one. Alright, yeah, let's take a look inside here. This seat has a handle, it seems. Can't find anything out of place. Oh, I have to go in there. Fine. This is a storage compartment, but there's nothing in here. It's totally empty. Something doesn't seem right here, but I can't put my finger on what it is. Oh, and we'll notice this seat does not have that cubby hole. Interesting, interesting. Yes, of course, the whole bus was submitted as evidence. This would be a good time to have a thorough look around inside. And it's when I found her. There's a child in there, all curled up in a ball, hiding her wee self away.
Hold it!
Alright, you say she was hiding herself. Boy, that's right. It was hard to see in the dim lamplight, but she was all curled up in a wee ball. When our eyes met, well, my heart nearly stopped beating in my chest. You're, really overreacting. Still all in all, I pulled her out from under there and sat her on the seat opposite so I could have a wee chat. Seat opposite. That's right, just next to the dead gentleman there. You sat this young girl next to a corpse, sir? Well, as I'm sure I mentioned, a gentleman in my position can all too find himself in mortal danger. So, I need to find out just who this urchin was, you see. And while I was in the middle of talking with her, I heard another scream. A fella's voice this time. So presumably that scream was Mr. First, who was sitting on the roof deck seat. Right you are again, I would say, sir. Looking down through the skylight, he must have seen this young girl and the gentleman with the knife in his belly. In other words, the previous witnesses did not in fact see you at all, Mr. Gilded. What they believed to be yourself and the victim was in fact this girl and the late Mr. Mason. Why, my lord. I was, I think everyone understands now, sat in the back of the carriage out of sight. It is certainly plausible. The defendant is somewhat diminutive in stature, and readily confused perhaps with this young girl. After that, of course, with the scream from the gentleman over us, the driver realized something was wrong and pulled up the horses. I think you have heard enough. The events as explained are clear in my mind. However, at least one conundrum remains. Who is this girl? Oh, her name is Gina Lestrade, my lord. She's a chancer, earns her crust among large crowds, leaving people of their purposes, which is commonly called a pickpocket. Oh, what? This girl here, a petty thief? Or. Is this true, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade, you will answer the question. Ah. How dare you? What is the meaning of this? Ah. The girl's gone. Oh, open your eyes. Boy, I'm over here. Good gracious, how? I mean, what was the point in that little sidestep? I know what you're thinking. Grown-ups are all the same. This little dipper, you said, slapped up and got caught on the job. Got herself back into a corner, so she knifed the gent. Go on, that's what's in your heads, ain't it? Not at all. This is a court of law. We're here to determine the truth, not cast... Look, knives are for cowards. Only thugs use weapons like that. All I need for what I do is these fingers. I'm professional, right? Maybe not in your eyes, but I got pride in what I do. Let me guess, you don't count smoke guns among weapons for thugs. All this? Yeah, it was in a bag I lifted the other day. Down where they keep the four-wheel. Little... Nice, isn't it? I like pink best. Ah, do not wave that thing in my direction again! So... You admitted that you were riding the omnibus the night in question. It is alright, lass. You can tell them the truth now. Alright, yeah. It's just like the Irishman said. The court accepts this girl, Gina Estrada, as valid and significant witness in this case. Accordingly, young lady, we will now hear her testimony, if you please. You will tell the court exactly what happened in the omnibus on the night in question. Alright, if I have to. What the girl saw. So I snuck inside the carriage, for they hooked up the horses, just like always. But it was a right waste of time. I got nothing to show for my troubles that night. I tell you can't see a blind thing in that hiding place. It's pitch black in there. Then after a while, I heard a loud bang. Nearly jumped out of me I did, and the scream just came out. It's because of that this swell found me. He did help me get away, mind. Yeah, he let you go. I fail to understand why you would let this street urchin go, Mr. McGilded. Oh, it is simplicity itself, my lord. You see, you couldn't possibly kill the other passenger. I know that for a fact. How? As I'm sure I said before, sir. Boy was sitting right on top of the place where she was hiding herself. I think a demonstration is called for. Alright, this is where I sat last night, and the cubbyhole of which you have spoken of is underneath this... Cubbyhole is underneath the seat, I presume. Yes, it does appear just large enough to accommodate someone of the girl's size. Boy, but of course the wee lass was stuck in there, because I'd parked myself on the seat for the duration. Ah, that's right. Yeah, there's no way she could have escaped without waking him up. So you see, that's why I lit the last bolt. I knew that if the police found her there, they'd automatically assume she'd done it. But I couldn't leave myself if a young life has ruined all, and all the time I knew she was innocent. Even though you must have realized your action would result in your own innocence being called into question. Not at all, my lord, not at all. I knew in my own heart I was innocent. So I thought it was worth taking a punt on my own good name for the sake of this less fortunate lass. Oh, goodness. What a perfect gentleman. Oh, my lord, this is a fine example of a man cannot possibly be guilty of a heinous crime like this. I'm ashamed for doubting you, sir. Only one is unconvinced of his innocence. With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time. Saints alive! All 6 members of the jury, consensual no leading of not guilty? Mr. Naruhodo, this must mean... It must mean what? We're victorious! Well, we've won? Are you sure? What the? If the sight of my iron-heeled Wellington offends, please do forgive the discourtesy. This really is a consummate example of the one monumental flaw in the British judicial practices. Where evidence and reasoning should be paramount, emotion rules the day. Emotion? The witness's last statement gives clear insight to his true nature. What do you mean, his true nature? Do you really think Scotland Yard would have made such a glaring omission? After the incident, the omnibus was comprehensively searched by the officers of the police. Obviously, the interior of this cubbyhole, as the witness put it, was included in that investigation. The compartment under the posterior was full of the coachman's belongings. It is noted the black and white here in the police report. Oh my. The evidence has been tampered with. In order to corroborate Mr. Gilfield's story, someone has unlawfully removed everything from under the seat. Wait, what? Order. How could such a deviant contrivance possibly have affected counsel? Naturally, we must acknowledge deficiencies in the constabulary in allowing this to have happened. However, I assure you, when the omnibus was wheeled into the courtroom this morning, the compartment under the seat was not empty. Well, my friend. Me? When the carrier was submitted as evidence, doubtless to examine it in fine detail as you would any self-respecting practitioner of the law. Pray, what did you find in the condition of the under-seat compartment to be? Oh, to be sure, the young gentleman will be able to clear this up in a jiffy. I'm sorry. Go ahead, you tell the court now, fella. Oh, this is an elaborate excuse by the desperate Van Zykes. Well, Consul, do you have something to say on this matter? How am I supposed to answer? What can I say about the state of that compartment or the seat in the omnibus? Saying I didn't look would get us out of this problem, but it would... I mean, obviously we'd look a bit more incompetent for it, but it would mean we wouldn't have to deal with this, and they'd have to deal with it as it is. The fact that it's empty means that when it was wheeled in, and something must have changed between when it was wheeled in and when we looked at it, but the problem is he's going to point it at us as having gone with it. So, and obviously we can't say it isn't empty because it is. So... yeah, if we put it here, he's going to say the defense emptied it out to make the client look innocent. But if we go with here, we look incompetent, but this forces him to have to look at it and figure out something else. So, choosing this one, this is the truth, but we'll make, but we'll definitely, look at us questionably. This will make us look stupid, but he can't use it as a weapon against us. So the question is, what do we want? Do we want to look incompetent, or do we want to be honest, but also open ourselves up to a lot more weaponry? I'm gonna be honest, under normal circumstances, I'd simply claim my incompetence here, or because allowing the prosecution to use a weapon against me is absolutely not acceptable, but this is a game where the truth needs to be done, so for the sake of this, here. Yes. I'm fairly certain when I examined it, it was empty. If I'm honest, all my memory about this is a haze. As I suspected, it seems, my lord, this Eastern has the scruples of a by-street wine merchant. In other words, yeah, he's saying I stole it. It's not a hold-up. Oh, perfect. This is why the fellow's representing me, after all. He knows just what to say, does he not? Well now, it would seem the argument is moot. The truth of the matter is here for you all to see, after all. The little cubbyhole under the seat is empty as the devil's heart, so it is. That we could be sure of, at least. Why? Why do I feel like something's not right here? I should like the jury to weigh in on this matter, I think. That compartment's designed to house equipment used to maintain the smooth running of the carriage. The Guild's rules state omnibuses should be properly and fully equipped at all times, so it certainly wouldn't have been empty on the night in question. Beppo isn't that irresponsible. Clearly, the money-lending fleecer and pickpocket are lying. Ack. Can't believe I was nearly taken in. Stinking rich are always stinkers. Nothing but cowards, a lot of them. What? Oh no. It's a trick. Of course it's a trick. Quite so, I must concur here. With calm, calculated reasoning, one arrives clearly at the truth every time. Yes, but every time a different truth, it seems. My lord, I humbly exhibit the scales of justice. Clearly a verdict of not guilty this time would be wholly inappropriate. Thank you, counsel. Yeah, he claims it's run on emotion, yet every single one of those was made based on an emotion, so... Yeah, we can clearly understand here Zykes is clearly full of crap. He only says that because it wasn't in his favor before, when before he had absolutely no problem with it when it was to declare the person guilty. Right, we shall allow a cross-examination. Counsel of the defense, begin your questioning of the witness, please. Yes, my lord. What just happened? The whole balance of the trial just shifted, almost beyond recognition. The Reaper of Bailey is at work, it would seem. Don't get me wrong. While technically speaking, Von Zykes does have has a good point to consider, the fact of the matter is he's only saying it because the scales were against him. If he actually cared, he'd have brought this up to before the case even started, or perhaps even expressed regret that so that emotion got him to win more than hard evidence. But no, he only brought it up the moment it was out of his favor, the very moment, and it wasn't helping him. Before then, he had zero issues with it, so yeah, I say he's definitely full of crap. Oh, I snuck to the carriage, fully hooked up the horses, like always. Alright, so you were already in the omnibus before it set up on its run. Well, yeah, I mean, what's the point of spending a joey to make a few bob, eh? That's the rum idea, isn't it? I suppose she means there's no point spending money to make money. It actually makes sense. To some extent, yeah. Consul, mind you, this girl's a petty thief. Kindly refrain from entertaining her tenants. Well, that does clear up the mystery of the fares and all. Or paying passengers, making the 20 which the cabman testified. And one little scapegrace riding for free. Boy, the Redford driver always goes some grub before his last run, say? That's when I slip into the carriage, get myself hidden under the seat. Nice and easy, right? But your hiding place is a storage compartment full of equipment for the coach, no? Yeah, there's brushes and buckets and whatnot in there, sure. I always chuck all that out and cram in a corner somewhere. No one ever seems to bother much. And yet, according to the report filed by the police officer who first arrived on the scene, the compartment was full of such paraphernalia. Well, I don't know nothing about that. Like I said, I moved that stuff out so I could hide under the seat. That's all I can tell you. It seems we've reached the end of that line of inquiry. Continue. What is a random waste of time? Got nothing to show from your troubles that night. Hold it! Alright, so a waste of time? Why is that? Well, most nights I'm on my own. And in the gold permit at least some of the time. I beg your pardon? Did you say god permit? Oh yeah, well that's what my kind of call it. We call it the omnibus, I suppose. One is, any normal around the carriage ain't got no one in it for a while. And that's when you come out of your hiding space and get away. That's it. Only that night. This cove was sat on me from the start. And he didn't budge a whole way, did he? Not 1 inch. I was totally stuck. Do you mean to tell us that you were present in the carriage for the duration? You were under the seat the whole time while the events unfolded in the enclosed cabin? Oh yeah. Right, mister. To be sure. I was as shocked as anyone. You don't expect to lift the cushion you've been sat on and find a child, now do you? So this Miss Lestrade couldn't possibly be the culprit then. Oh, I tell you, I can't see a blind thing. It's pitch black in there. Hold it! Alright, so you couldn't see into the cabin at all, is that correct? Not a bit. Not a bit. Most days I push the cushion up with me head and look out the crack. Then I can have a butcher's at home gonna fiddle. I thought you were a pickpocket, not a butcher. I mean, I can't have a look. The seat I get under ain't as plush as the other ones, see? so most of the time the passengers planned themselves the opposite. But for some reason that night, this here Irishman spent the whole journey right over me head. And for that reason, you weren't able to push the cushion to peek out. I see. Truth is, I ain't happy in small dark place. I feel too much like being thrown in prison. That's the only place to hide in them carriages, so it's Obson's choice. Why doesn't she just stick to picking people's pockets out in the open then? I say there's some reason she's not letting on, judging from her demeanor. So anyways, I'm a bit scared and I just stuck it out there. Nothing else for it. Then after a while, I hear a loud bang. Nearly jumped out of my skin, I did. Scream came out. Alright, so when you say a loud bang, do you mean the noise of someone falling to the floor, a gunshot? What exactly? Could have been, I suppose. I, don't remember so bad. Point is, it made me jump. And you let out a scream involuntarily, correct? That's right. And then I felt the cushion over my head get lighter all of a sudden. Presumably when the defendant got up in order to help the victim, yes? Or not. It could equally have been the moment the accused stood up to stab the victim, could it not? Well, girl, did you see what happened at all in the crucial moment? Yeah, I saw it. I pushed up the cushion and took a quick look while I had the chance, didn't I? The Irishman was sitting up the bloke who'd fall on the floor of the seat opposite. That matches Mr. Gilded's account, of course. But then the fella suddenly turns around and looks right at me. I sunk back down again, but it was too late. I could never have risked looking. Because this swell found he helped me get away, man. Hold it! And then Mr. McGilded discovered you. He pulled you out from your hiding place. I was scared stiff it was. He dragged me out and sat me in the seat and all. Next to the victim, Mr. Mason. Yeah, a bloke had a knife in his guts. He was still bleeding. When the carriage lurched a bit, it ended up falling onto me. How awful. Both me hands got covered. Blood. I feel sick as a dog. Both our hands covered in blood. That must be what the rooftop passengers saw. After that, I believe you talked with Mr. McGilded for a while, is that correct? He asked me some stuff. Wanted to know me name, what I was up to and that. Then I heard something up above, someone screamed. Yes, Mr. First on the roof deck one, I presume. Well, I didn't want no one to see my face, so I didn't look up. When the horses were drawn up smart, this Irishman says to me, get back under the seat, I'll see that you can get away later. All 6 members of the jury had decided the defendant was innocent. For one brief, shining moment, yes. It's clear they're all very unsure. If we could just find some conclusive piece of evidence among this new testimony, I'm sure we can clinch the verdict we want. Yeah, I think you're right. And I have this little feeling something's bothering me, but I just can't quite put my finger on it. Let's check out this one again, because I think this is the key here. Let's take a court record here. take a look at the knife here real quick. It's not like blood. Charlie's blood, the victims. Stabbed once in the abdomen while journeying on the omnibus, died due to twice fired Mason.
Hold it! Well, no.
Oh, he's saying something.
Excuse me.
Excuse me, is something wrong, Mr. Gilded? Oh, I do apologize. Was there something the matter, Counsel? I was just wondering if Miss Lestrade's last comment made something occur to you, perhaps. You seem to be thinking something to yourself. Would it be helpful to our case? Oh, no. It was nothing important. I was feeling bad for the poor lass, is all. I'm never feeling desperate myself as a young lad. Shut up in the dark. It was terrifying, so it was. I see. Yes, I'm sure we can all sympathize. I'm still scared of the dark now. Well, to be fair, it's not the dark specifically people are afraid of. It's what it hides that most are typically afraid of. Well, I guess it's kind of like saying most aren't actually scared of heights. It's the landing, so to speak. Oh, but I find the darkness seems to make everything you hear that much louder as well. Oh, yeah. I suppose it does, maybe. Miss Lestrade? Did you hear something that night? Anything? Unusual noise, perhaps? No, not really. All I could hear was the Irishman snoring. Oh my, it's not old world, you little scamp. What a pity. If only Miss Lestrade heard something, it might have given us a vital new clue. What should we make of that last statement of hers? Well, as we learned before, sometimes nothing being there could itself be a clue. My lord, I believe the statement just made by the witness is profoundly important. Profoundly important, but, all she said was that she heard nothing. Yes, which is an important point, I'm almost sure of it. I'm almost sure I don't understand the inner workings of your Eastern Mind, Counsel. Nevertheless, Miss Gina Lestrade, please supplement your formal testimony by repeating that last statement, please. What, supper, man? What are you on about? Don't give me a fancy talk. I'm trying to do won't work on me. That's right. Insult the judge. Always a good move. Strained me used to work out what was going on, but all I could hear snoring. Alright, let's press her on that now. Alright, so we're strained to hear what was happening the entire time since the moment you hid yourself. Oh, not exactly, no. I'm sorry. Well, there was no one in the cabin to start with. I could just push the cushion up and have a look to see what was what. But then I saw the swell get... No, and I got me head down so he wouldn't notice me. Mr. McGill had sat on the seat which you were hiding, correct? Yeah. Would you have believe that? What a mug. So then all I could do was listen. I was waiting to jump out there as soon as I heard him leave, see? But would he? Not likely. Even though he stopped here and there, I never heard the door open. Just said to stay put and listen to him drive. So I just had to stay put and listen to him driving into the market, snoring like an old dog was. Are there any conclusions we can draw from that, I wonder? Let's Something seems off. Miss Lestrade, what do you call the course clearly at odds with the facts? At odds? Are you sure, man? Absolutely. It seems my learned friend here is not as dull-witted as I feared. So Van Zykes realized it too. Counsel, I must insist you bolster your claim with evidence or some complicit party's name at the very least. Yes, my lord. I expect you to demonstrate this alleged contradiction in the court. Let's take another quick look through everything here. Well, there's a button missing, but I'm not sure if that's going to matter. Oh, she's 17. A young woman who witnessed the incident from her hiding place the night of the murder, discovered by the defendant. Male Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice. Absolute authority in judicial matters, including appointment of lawyers. He's a thoroughly intimidating man. Magnus McGilded. Incredibly wealthy philanthropist with a wonderful reputation. I'm to defend him as a test of my worthiness to become a lawyer. Prosecutor known as the Reaper Bailey. Supposedly the souls of those he prosecutes are eternally damned one way or another. Victim is skilled but poor. Apparently owed the victim a great sum of money. Driver of the omnibus which the murder took place. He's an eyewitness to the incident. Parents milliner. Ooh. It's fair. Alright, according to Miss Lestrade, while she was hiding in the omnibus that night, she heard nothing but the sounds of Mr. McGilden's snoring. Think, run. Skate, think. There's something else she should have heard. What would she have heard? The victim, a skilled but poor... Oh, the defendant. The driver, eyewitness. I wish we had a... I wish I had the court record had the witness's statements from before. What else should she have heard? Oh yeah, she should have heard the victim. Very well, my lord. Allow me to elaborate. A particular sound that could not have failed to hear on the night in question. Presence of the following person. The sound very clearly explained by the presence of the following person.
Take that!
Thrice fired mason? Yes, my lord. The sound that Miss Lestrade cannot fail to hear is that of the victim, Mr. Mason, boarding the omnibus. Order! Explain your reasoning, counsel. Miss Lestrade, allow me to confirm something. You claimed earlier you were in the first person on the omnibus, is that correct? Yeah, of course I was. I got on while the driver was in the pub, didn't I? And the next person to board the omnibus was Mr. McGilded. Well, that it was. Not a soul in the cabin when I was in the cabin when I climbed board. At least not in plain sight. So you were, for all intents and purposes, alone in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus that time. Oh, I did not just say as much. I wasn't traveling with anyone else, if that's what you mean. Yeah, I saw him get on, man. Broke the crack in the seat cushion. He was on his own for sure. And from what we've heard, the carriage made a number of stops after its onward journey, during which time did you not hear the door opening or closing at all? Nah, never heard it. That's exactly what I was listening for, weren't I? Waiting for this swell to leave. In which case, when and how did the victim end up inside the carriage? Ah, we know the victim collapsed in the enclosed cabin. Therefore, Miss Lestrade's statement about what she did or did not hear is at odds with the facts. Ah, yes, this petty thief statement is clearly flawed. Lord Van Zykes. Yeah, he knew. He knew all too well that there was inconsistency in her statement. It would seem the what? The thanks are in order for my learned friend. What are you talking about? You have demonstrated matters impeccably. This witness and her colorful statements are entirely unreliable. Her words are convenient truths, nothing more. He's dead, right? How could the victim possibly not have boarded the omnibus? That makes no sense whatsoever. And this girl's a pickpocket. Let's not forget that. Ah, she didn't even say anything. I didn't want to judge the dear little mite just because she has some rather naughty ways. I must say, I can't abide liars. And neither can I. Mr. Foreman? I didn't want to judge the girl just because she was less than Salabrook's ways, but I must say, I cannot abide liars. Ah, Miss Naruhodo, that's 5 jury members towards guilty. Well, your consideration for others is refreshing, my friend. To the considerable troubles you have spared me. Yes, very refreshing. Ow! Ah! What are you playing at? Have you forgotten who you're working for? This is carnage. It's perfect. Juror number 2 is the only one left. Miss Naruhodo, the way this is going, I know. If we can't find some new way to convince everyone Mr. McGilded's innocence, the judge will rule and we'll have lost. I very much wanted to believe the words of one of London's most respected gentlemen, but those of us in service know we accept hard truths.
Hold it!
Now hold it. Yes, the witness's last statement seems to have revealed a critical inconsistency in her story. However, if we consider the possibility that her statement is in fact the truth, that may shed an entirely new light on this whole case. What are you saying? Counsel? I'm sorry, sir. Whatever do you mean? Counsel, I will not tolerate you attempting to prorogue my education. Explain yourself at once. When the accused boarded the omnibus at night, the victim was nowhere to be seen. Subsequently, the carriage door was not heard opening a single time, as testified by the witness in the stand. And yet the victim's body was found inside the carriage. If this petty thief's words are to be believed, how do you explain the victim's miraculous appearance inside the cabin of the omnibus? There's only one way to explain how the victim came to be inside the carriage. Let's examine the whole thing again. Can I examine the windows at all? No, he couldn't have gone through the windows. Doesn't appear like there's another storage bin here. That's blood, isn't it? Something wrong? Oh, it's just, well, this blood stain is so obvious, that's all. And yet Von Zykes made no mention of it. I suppose that does seem a little strange. Why do I have such a bad feeling about this? Alright, and according to our defendant, he was on the ground when first. So. Hmm. Alright. It can't be that he was there from the very beginning. Alright, let's check out what exactly here. Alright, the fact there's so much blood on the ground and yet Van Zykes never even mentioned it implies that it's important to the defense. Now, it can't be that he was in there already because we have two witnesses stating that no one else was inside before they went in there. There's another entrance is possible, but you'd think that the pickpockets that work with those regularly would be aware of that. Putting there after he died, though. This is the only one that doesn't have a clear... Obviously, the victim must have been placed there after he was killed. Tell me, my learned friend, what is the function of that obviously in your last statement? Oh, sad Lord Van Zykes, the obviously is troubling me also. Well, that's really not the point. The point is that the victim must have been moved the carriage afterwards. Then answer me this, how could a cadaver have been placed inside of a moving carriage? Well, obviously... I shall have to penalize the defense heavily for this irrelevant rambling. I must learn to ramble more relevantly. The penalty is evidently not heavy enough, judging from those eyes. So I ask you again. If the petty thieves, how to explain the miraculous appearance inside the cabin? Isn't there already? There's another entrance. She said she was specifically hearing for an entrance to open. Nah. And another entrance that she's unaware of seems unlikely. Clearly, he was in there beforehand. Shucks. Tell me why, my learned friend. Was the function of that clearly in your last sentence? No, that's really not the point. The victim must have been in the carriage from before. And answer me this. By beforehand, to what specific point are you referring? Well, clearly... Oh, weird. The one I was most convinced couldn't be the case was the real one. If the door wasn't opened even once, the only explanation is the victim entered through some other way. I wonder what new fantasy would come. Oh, the fact that he answered differently shows this is indeed correct. With their blind panic. But behold, the omnibus is there for us all to see. Only one side of the enclosed cabin is furnished with a door. The other is only windows. Fixed windows, which cannot possibly open. In short, there is no entrance to the cabin other than the door. But there could be. That's one possibility you hadn't considered. Oh, really? Yes, one other way inside that isn't the door. Another opening, use of which allowed the victim to appear inside the enclosed cabin. Alright, counsel. The defense will identify the location for the court. Here's the omnibus in which the scene occurred. Entrance, which he entered the cabin. The skylight. Everything revolves around that.
Take that!
The answer is obvious. It can only be in the skylight. I say, the skylight?
Objection!
Your ludicrous proposal almost has me lost for words.
Objection!
What? The skylight may well be large enough for someone to pass through. So you claim, but do you have a shred of evidence to support your addle-brained theory? Both Mr. McGill and Miss Lestrade said the same in their testimonies. They each claimed to have heard a loud thud, such as the noise made by someone falling to the floor. Yes, which has already been explained. As the sound of the victim falling from his seat having been assaulted with a dagger. Yes, it has, but would a man slipping from his seat onto the floor really have made such a loud noise the witness described? Indeed, it's only a few inches. There's no way it should be loud. A noise now enough to call Miss Lestrade to let out a voluntary cry, in fact? Good gracious! Perhaps, in fact, that was the moment the victim had made his entrance into the cabin. No, let me rephrase that. The victim didn't enter the cabin as such. He fell into it. You're now suggesting that the victim fell from the skylight into the cabin? That's simply impossible. How can you be sure? Because if the victim had fallen through the skylight, the passengers on the roof would have seen it happen. And yet, not one person made mention of such events in their testimony. Yes, that's true, but... hold it. Is our timeline off entirely? Oh, madame, but Bella make it a wee comment here. Mr. McGilded? Oh, to be sure now, the two fellas were sat on the roof that testified before. Said nothing of the victim falling through the skylight. But it seems to me, my lord, that 'tis not so much a case of them not saying, but... hide. The case of them being unable to say. What? I think perhaps the two fellas do be having something of a compelling reason not to mention what happened. Would you not agree, fine ladies and gentlemen of the jury? What? Oh my goodness, surely not. Those two chaps on the roof? Typing furiously. You mean the ones who stuck the knife in the man were... Ah! Just what exactly are you insinuating here, you blatherer? You rotter, he said. You rotter. What are you insinuating? This is a flaming outrage. I've a good mind to give you a blinker in a minute. He'll give you a shot in a minute, he said. So will I. Mr. Fairplay, you're effectively accusing me, a steady gentleman, a well-respected banker, and me, a very angry hatter, suggesting that someone like me could have stabbed that man in the guts. It's a disgrace. It's scandalous. I protest. I protest the strongest possible terms. That's why I protest too, you rotten scoundrel. Order. This is not the time, witnesses. I will not permit this wanton invasion of the stand. Return to the anteroom at once. This is beyond reason, my lord. It's outrageous. It's very hurtful, you know. My lord, if I may comment. Go ahead, Law Van Zykes. It was the defense that incited this outburst from the witnesses. My learned friend has seen it fit to abandon all protocol and accuse the witnesses without proof. Accuse? I didn't... Hey, I technically never accused them. It seems that your command of the English tongue is wanting. You have proposed to this court the victim fell through the skylight from the roof deck of the omnibus. That hypothesis cannot possibly stand without the rooftop passengers being aware of events. You You have branded these gentlemen liars. You have intimidated. To be fair, it was technically McGilded that threw out that accusation, not us. In all British courts of law, that is what's termed a baseless accusation. I know I was rash to put this idea forward, but without direct evidence, but you can't just dismiss it without a second thought either. What do we waste time for? Get them to testify. I thought there was something fishy about that at the moment I laid eyes. We have to see this matter through now, one way or another. There's filth and rubbish in our midst. We must dispose of it at once. Testify. What's happening, Mr. Naruhodo? Spectators in the public gallery they're in a complete frenzy. Mr. Fairplay and Mr. First. My lord? You will take a stand again and make another formal testimony in reference to the indictment brought forth by the defense. Yes, my lord. I didn't come here for this. There's no time to think this through. And I imagine these events occurring right now were absolutely planned out by McGilded. All I can do is keep pushing forward. Witness testimony, refuting the accusation. We were the only two people on the roof deck, dead or alive, I can swear that. If anything happened when we were sitting, don't you think one or the other of us would have noticed? In any case, neither of us knows the first thing about the victim. We had no reason to kill them. The skylight was shut the entire time until we couldn't possibly have opened it. If you're so sure the victim fell through the skylight, where is your proof? I must say that on listening to this testimony, it is somewhat hard to imagine how either witness could have performed any malevolent act on this open rooftop deck without the other noticing forthwith. Either they're both innocent or they're both guilty, basically. That's right, see? We're innocent, I tell you. Although logically, of course, the argument falls down to the two of you were in collusion with one another. What? Eh? According to the investigations by the Scotland Yard, the two witnesses share no common dealings. Ha! Well, I don't trust coppers any more than I trust the stinking rich. Something doesn't feel right here. Yeah, this trial's going in our favor, really, so why do I feel so uneasy? Counsel the defense, over to you. Your cross-examination, please. Oh, yes, yes, my lord. Cross-examination. Refuting. We're the only two people on the roof deck. Dead or alive, I swear to that. So, at no time did the victim, Mr. Mason, climb to join you on the roof deck. Absolutely not. Dickens. No question about it, he said. Not at all. Oh, but yes, of course. We're seeing both. I saw the victim in the enclosed cabin talking with this man here. Is this true, Mr. McGilded? Oh dear me, my lord. I'm just repeating myself. I boarded the omnibus alone and nodded off in sight almost immediately. That's an outright lie. Without a doubt, you were engaged. Let me stop you there, fella, and ask, do you have any evidence at all? It is all about evidence in the court these days, so it is. You do well to remember that. We're not exactly protecting the most, we're not exactly protecting the nicest of people, but... Fact of the matter is, I really don't think he did it, so... I saw it with my own eyes. This is going so well. However, I don't trust any of these guys any more than I trust him, so it's not a big deal, I guess. If anything happened there, don't you think one or the other one of us would have noticed? Now, hold it. Well, it was on the final run of the omnibus at past 10 o'clock in the evening. It would certainly have been quite dark. Maybe it would be too dark to see clearly. Is this some kind of a lock? Is this some kind of joke, you said? Is that what it is? Perhaps one or the other of you fell asleep briefly? Are you fair? Are you serious, sir? That's what he said. Impossible, I tell you. I'll give you the keys to the vault if you could fall asleep in that bitter cold. If you did, Madge, your eyelids would freeze shut and you'd never open them again. That's, extreme. It was extreme, I tell you. We had to put up because this man had locked the door. A true gent would have unlocked it and let me in when I knocked. Lord, I'm dreadfully sorry about that young fella, but you see, I was away with the fairies and didn't see you, hear you at all. It's a lie. I saw you through the glass. You were talking to someone. Now, it was a cold night, it was. People do be seeing things that aren't real in the cold. It's hardly surprising. I don't think they're lying that he was talking to someone, but I also don't think they're exactly innocent either. Seeing things. I believe we've reached an impasse here with this particular point. You... Oh, don't make it personally now, lad. If I'm a suspect in the case, it is only fair that you and the other are too. Open and free competition is what a cap society is all about. This isn't a competition I should like to be involved in, really. Yeah, we're definitely not defending the nicer people here, but I really don't think he was involved in the murder, so I think this is still the best here. Well, that's what it's like as a defense attorney. Sometimes you do have to defend scumbags. That's just part of the job. And in any case, neither of us saw the first thing that already kills the man. So you had never met this Mr. Thrice-Fired Mason before? No, not once, never. And he'd never met the man before, he said, never. Thank you, Mr. First. And you, Mr. First, had no proper dealings with the victim either. That's right, sir. Hatters don't have much to do with brickmakers. Why is he acting like a jockey? Yeah. No, I imagine not. See, how many different ways can I put this? Neither of us have a remotest connection to the gentleman.
No.
We're inside the cabin.
Excuse me.
Looks like our defendant may actually be able to shed some light on their connection. Mr. McGilded? Oh yes, counsel. What can I be doing you for? Did the witness's last statement give you pause for thought somehow? Not the remotest disconnection. Is that right now? Because I wonder. What are you insinuating now? Ah, Mr. Fairblade, it has been too long, so it has. Eh? If I'm not very much mistaken, I do believe it is fast approaches, not your repayment date. I beg your pardon? You borrowed 20 guineas from me, sir. At an unconscionable rate of interest. You tricked me. It's extortion. Oh, well now. Is that a touch of begrudgery, is it? Such begrudgery that might motivate a fella to pass off his crimes onto another. What? And young Mr. First. Me, sir? What do you want with me, sir? You do be making hats for a living, do you not? That there top hat, sir, is sliding off your head a lot. Is that one of your own creations? Oh, well, I'm still just an apprentice, you understand. I'm longing to find the perfect fit for whatever fine gent goes to the door. The perfect fit is, well, it is a very distinctive design, so it is. Many customers like it, I tell you. They like a distinctive touch. Customers. Such as the Thrice-Fired Mason. Ah. There's a photographic print of the victim submitted as evidence, my lord. Oh, yes. This you mean. Alright, that's a really big hat. I can't help but thinking that poor fellow's hat looks distinctively familiar, wouldn't you say? Oh! Oh, that's one of my hats. Aye, it is. So it seemed the brickmaker was a customer of yours. So the victim does have connection to these two. Well, technically only a connection to one, but because Fair Play is desperate to get rid of his debt, he doesn't really need to know the victim. He just needs to make a victim to pin it on Mr. McGilded. A sort of customized wager you could have will be quarrel with over distinctness of goods. No, sir. Absolutely not, sir. Well, there's really nothing more to add. It wouldn't be right to say the two fellas here haven't the remotest connection to the victim, you see. I rest my case. Yeah, Alright, little weasel. Yeah, what I'm getting here is I can't really trust everyone here too far. And I can't trust anyone here too far. He's better at this than I am. Gosh, Mr. McGilded's certainly been thorough with his research, hasn't he? Now, please, don't be a little interruption. Hold up the proceedings. The skylight was shut the entire time. We couldn't possibly have opened it. Are you quite certain about that? That skylight was shut the entire time. I'm gonna lose my block with you this minute. He's going to lose his rag with you in a minute. That's what he said. Why are you backing up everything the banker says? Is he in debt with the banker and that's why he's trying to... They're working together on this? Go take a look for yourself, go on. Or maybe he needed a victim and the Hatter recommended him since they had a quarrel. See, it's shut fast now, just like it was that night. So it is. Of course, if the size of Mr. Mason could easily break right through it, still normal. What? Just look at the size of that thing, you understand. Now you all on a minute, sir. The size of that thing means nothing. Not on its own. Consider the bigger picture, shall we? Let's stop biting our cane, shall we? I was riding omnibus on another occasion, which, I broke wind loudly. I shocked myself with it as it happens. This is an unexpected confession, Mr. First. Oh, I just mean to say, well, point is, I tried to open the skylight, you see. But just my luck, I couldn't make a budge. The stench was terrible. Everyone was looking daggers at me, sir. I went as red as rouge, I did. Are you expecting me to sentence you? Oh, no, sir. Point is, the skylight can't be opened. I tried and tried when I was inside the cabinet.
That ain't...
Looks like our little thief friend here knows something. Do you have something to say about that, Miss Lestrade? Miss Lestrade? It opens. Huh? Skylight. That's what we're told to talk about, right? All them skylights open. Dead easy. More easily than you can load that weapon, apparently. It's a lie. I tell you, otherwise when I broke wind, You can't do it from the inside, you mug. What? Look, a few weeks ago, I was up on the roof deck, one of them... Ooh. That's right. You can see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. And look, you can see the blood here, which means the body had a clear trajectory. Yeah, there's a lamp there. I'm sure witnesses would have been able to see it quite clearly. That's not good for us. And I had a great haul. I mean, I had purses coming out of my ears. Miss Lestrade, this is not the forum to be... you're lodging on the subject of your criminal activities. Well, anyway, I had a bit of scare. I left the latest bloke's purse, got wise to me. All forms surrounded me, so I couldn't hop off the bus and leg it. So what I did was I used a skylight, opened the catch, and jumped right in. Yeah, the catch for them skylights is on the top side. That's why I can't open it from the cabin. The skylight opens only from the roof deck. Bailiff. Climb onto the roof of the omnibus at once and verify this witness's claims. And we can see it from here, yep. I wonder if Mr. Lady's first was supposed to be a pair of that Tips fedora, milady. Well, he doesn't have a fedora, but I'm sure he could make one. A shitty one. See? Order. So it appears the girl's statement is quite true. I don't believe it. The skylight opens. And from the roof deck only. Mr. Naruhodo. This is the clue we've been looking for. Yeah, and that also explains why Von Zykes refused to mention it. Because of the fact that the skylight opens and the blood on the floor, that opens up a clear accusation of being able to argue the person falls through the top. Well, counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. So, the skylight opens. Perhaps I should investigate for myself. So So the skylight was fast and shut before. Now the catch has been undone, we should be able to open it. Yep, it slides right open. You can certainly see the inside.
Objection!
Objection. Let's consider the implication of that statement for a moment, shall we? What implications, Counsel? Nothing strikes me about it. I thought I showed the right evidence. Exactly, there's nothing striking about it. What does strike me is a propensity for the inane, however. I need to clear my head and come at this again from a different angle.
Hold it!
I'm pretty sure I need to point the blood on the ground being right beneath the sky. Proof. That's right, I demand to hear it. We came to say what we saw, I tell you, not for this. What you call us? Well, brown just criminals. You call us liars, that's what he means. You're accused us of doing it. I'll just stand at the moment. There's no hard evidence that incriminates yourselves now, is there? I believe we're in much the same position as one another here. If I don't crack this case soon, he'll crack his teeth. I wonder if these two men really were involved in some way. I couldn't say. I mean, I don't really know anything about them, do I? Although by the same token, I don't really know anything about Mr. McGilded either. It's so hard to know what to believe here. I think we should try to remember that it's evidence alone that can truly determine the outcome of a trial. Evidence. No one can argue against decisive evidence. Maybe I needed to examine this here. I think we have the evidence here. Yes, it does open very wide, doesn't it? Wide enough to kick someone like you through, certainly, Mr. Naruto. Why someone like me? Ah! What is it? Look, just here, look at this! That's, without question, it's blood. Why would there be blood stain here? And look, we couldn't see it before because it was closed. Which means it was only cleared off the parts I could see. It can't be unrelated to the case, can it? Details of the omnibus have been updated. Yeah, that's what I need to do before I could present this piece of evidence. Including the members of the jury. So you're saying that what we need now is to find a conclusive piece of evidence. Yes, precisely. Yeah, I just presented a little too early. There we are. Now, objection. On the night in question, the victim was fatally stabbed in the stomach, and immediately afterwards, the victim's body was pushed through the skylight in the cabin below. Those are the facts, and the irrefutable proof certainly remains clearly visible in the omnibus that stands before us today in this very courtroom. What? That's utter humbug. You can't possibly have any evidence. No, you can't. I mean, we didn't do it. I tell you, that's possible. Oh, right. Remember, the banker said that he lost his money gambling on horse races, and this guy's clearly this guy might actually be a jockey posing as a hatter, or he might be a jockey who is also an apprentice hatter. Irrefutable proof here in this courtroom. Counsel, my lord, I believe everyone would appreciate a little clarification here. Where exactly within the omnibus is evidence to which you allude? You'll point out where it is that proves the victim fell to the roof deck through the skylight.
Got it!
Got it! By Jupiter! Is that blood? And on the skylight, This bloodstain proves two things. Firstly, when the incident occurred, the skylight of the omnibus was open. What? And secondly, the victim was already bleeding when he fell through the opening. Oh my. So as it follows, Mr. McGilded, who was inside the enclosed cabin at the time, cannot possibly be guilty of this crime. No. Order, order!
Hold it!
Hold it? What? The blood could have been sprayed up there when the fellow was stabbed. And it only found its way to that one particular spot in the skylight? Sure, and that would be very convenient. Yeah, it's too convenient. Oh, let's keep in mind the skylight catch can only be fastened from the roof deck. I myself wouldn't have been able to open it now, would I? Oh, but... There's no way to know for certain, is there? If the gent really fell through the skylight, I mean. Why don't you have a good look at the floor of the cabin between the two seats, Mr. First? It is all too plain, if you see. There's the aftermath that shows the poor fellow dropped from a fair height, so there is. What? No! Oh... Lies!
Hold it!
My fellow jury members, I think we can all agree that this is clear proof of the defendant's innocence, can't we? I believe we can, yes, sir. It's clear to me now the filthy rubbish can be found in this courtroom. So they thought they could pull the wool over my eyes, did they? I won't tolerate any of the guild's carriages being sullied with blood. I won't tolerate it. Oh, I always knew that nice gentleman who gave us that delightful park couldn't have done such a thing. On three, then, everyone. 3.
Objection!
A chilling performance, Mr. McGilded. Oh, and what would ye be referring to there now, Lord Van Zykes? A bloodstain on the frame of the skylight. Such evidence is null and void. What? Why? For one extremely simple reason. That smear of blood never existed. What are you talking about? It's there for all to see.
Objection!
It's clearly blood. I personally attended Scotland Yard's investigation of the omnibus. The officers involved went over the carriage with a fine-tooth comb. So I can state with absolute surety, no such smear existed in the carriage. At least, not until this trial began. Are you suggesting, Lord Zykes, this stain of blood was fabricated, Lord? Yes. While this court's been in session. I mean, I've been on the defendant's chair on the defendant's stand for the entire time. Ah, what palaver. I must say I didn't expect such crude reasoning from a prosecutor standing, Lord Van Zykes. But I'm Magnus McGilded, a fellow known all over the capital for his fine contributions to public life. I don't take kindly to slander, and I'll fight it to the bitter end. Even if it's rolling off the tongue of the Reaper of the Bailey. Mr. McGilded, I realize that this first appearance in court is the accused. However, I am well aware of your involvement behind the scenes in great many affairs of dubious nature. You're very adept when it comes to avoiding getting your own hands dirty. And each time it happens, that case you're involved in is investigated, you adapt the facts. Adapt? What does that even mean? You wield a fortune the size of Mr. McGilded's. However ill-gotten it may be, nothing is impossible. Tampering with evidence, manipulating the scene of a crime, bribing witnesses. I toast your ability to concoct the most convenient of stories, sir. Oh, Lord Van Zykes, this will not do, to be sure. Will it now, counsel? Oh, I think it's fair to say, this does not at all sound like a rather far-fetched excuse by a desperate man? The blood in the skylight didn't exist, you say. But if you will cast your minds back, is it not true the omnibus here has been in this very courtroom this entire time? How could anyone possibly have put a smear in the blood without the world and his wife seeing? Isn't that right now, counsel? It's true. The omnibus has been in full view this entire time the court's been in session. My learned friend. Here's to hearing your opinion on this matter, in your own words. As you wish. Could someone have tampered with the omnibus during this trial? If you're asking me... I mean, it's been out here. How could he have changed it? But at the same time, we still have the contradiction of how those supplies got inside of it after the crime, but before the police arrived. There's definitely been some tampering here, but we don't know necessarily if it was Mr. McGilded. It's possible, but... Oh, you're right, Mr. Naruhodo? You've fallen silent. I want to say that it's out of the question. I mean, it has to be, doesn't it? But for some reason, I just can't bring myself to say it. Yeah, it makes sense. Strictly speaking, we should just say that, and the case is pretty much over, but... We're here to find the truth, after all. But the omnibus has been full view of everyone in the courtroom. It's out of the question someone could have tampered with it, surely, isn't it? Unless the bailiff did it, I guess, since the bailiff was asked to edit it. No, you don't think... Might it actually have been possible? As a defense lawyer, it's my job to advocate for the defendant as best I can. But still, I feel as though there's something even more important at stake here. There's no evidence to suggest the defendant did as my learned friend suggests. However, in terms of having the opportunity to carry out the alleged tampering, there is one possibility. Yeah, because remember, he's asked the bailiff to examine it each time. Explain yourself, counsel. Yes, there is. It seems my friend here has no intention of running from this deceit. Deceit? I'm sure everyone still remembers clearly the recess that we were forced to take. Oh, right, that was the big time. As a result of the smoke grenade fired by the witness currently at stand. And do remember, I tried to examine the skylight right beforehand. But to see if I could open it, but I couldn't until the event flag allows me to do so. Likewise, I have no idea about the storage compartment, however. I did examine the seat itself, but it didn't really do anything. Bang. But yeah, because she did that, technically speaking, there's a chance anyone could have tampered with it, not necessarily a defendant. Careful, cover your face. Bailiff, don't let the accused escape. Scare the omnibus. I hereby call an emergency recess. The courtroom was filled with smoke, and everyone was thrown into confusion. All of us were made to leave this chamber. Now, but in that brief interval, under the veil of smoke and all the chaos, anyone could have stolen inside the omnibus. Are you wise? What are you trying to bully? You rotten gouger. Feckless gouger? You're supposed to be defending me. It's a wicked plot, a plot on the mind resource. Whatever you think this is, it changes nothing. The facts are the same. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter if I had mentioned it or not. Van Zykes just pointed out the emergency recess. After this courtroom was evacuated as a result of the smoke grenade, a number of inconsistencies materialized in relation to the omnibus. Inconsistencies such as... Start with the storage compartment underneath the rear passenger seat. When the police investigated the omnibus, this compartment was full of the driver's items. Secondly, we have the same smear of blood on the edge of the skylight. As I've said, though was not present at all during this the trial this morning. And it wouldn't even let me open those items, so we have no way of knowing if that was the case or not. Unfortunately, Lord Van Zykes, no one's able to corroborate your claims. That is true. When the omnibus was first wheeled out, both the storage compartment and skylight were shut, and the game wouldn't even let me try to open them. Accordingly, I'm afraid to say we cannot establish with any certainty if this evidence is a result of tampering or not. Indeed, my lord. No doubt there was not a single person who saw fit to verify such things. What do you think? I'm sorry? About the omnibus. Is there anything else unusual about the omnibus? I honestly have no idea off the top of my head. If I'm honest, I don't remember what I examined when in that omnibus. I can't verify this either way. Don't worry, don't worry, Ryanosuke. The game didn't even let you do that. me check the history bit. Lord, at this moment in time, the defense can... Hold it! Can I point one other inconsistency? A mark that surely could not have been present at the start of the trial. What? Mr. Zotto, what are you doing? I examined the omnibus with you, don't forget. There's something that seems out of place compared to how the carriage looked originally. That's what we need to identify now. What in the devil's name are you going to say now? If you dare to betray me, you little hacker, you better start watching your back.
Objection!
Silence, McGilded. The court awaits the defense's clarification. This trial keeps swinging one way and the other. I have no idea what's the truth and what's deception. What am I supposed to believe here? I shall have to ask you to elaborate, counsel. I remember that said Phoenix Wright Omnibus. Did the number change? I didn't pay any particularly close attention to the text. Darn, I wish I had been... Let's check a look inside. Great exhibition due to start 6 months from now. Where exactly is the alleged mark that appeared at some point in the trial? Was this here before, actually?
Got it!
If you consider the victim fell through the skylight on the floor of the cabin, you would certainly expect to find signs of blood where he landed. But as far as I can recall, this blood stain on the cabin floor was not there when the omnibus was first brought into the courtroom. Oh, good lord. Yes, I do believe you're correct, counsel. Yeah. I was wondering about that stains. I was wondering how I missed it before. Well said. Although, as advocate for the defense, one might say that was a very careless slip of the tongue. I believe that bloodstain on the floor is a decisive piece of evidence. But the question is whether that evidence is genuine, or whether it was unlawfully fabricated by someone. I feel compelled to admit there is at least a possibility the evidence is faked. Well, this trial is over. Mr. McGilded. I've done everything I possibly can to cooperate with the court, but it's all over now. But you're the defendant. It's over, I tell ye. Memory, recollection, what people think they saw it. It's all nonsense. Facts are what counts, and the fact is that bloodstain is there now. Well... And over the course of this desperate trial, long and extremely drawn out as it's been, that Governor Rupert Bailey has failed to present any decisive evidence at all. That is also true, however. I'm scandalized, so I am. I thought better of Lord Van Zykes. Well, my lord? I must concur with the defendant how unaffirmed recollections of an individual cannot stand as evidence. At this moment in time, the particular blood stain in question is very much in existence, and the absence of any credible method to prove it was its alleged previous non-existence. I regret to say that it would be improper for this trial to continue. Oh, your lordship can't be serious. Lord Van Zykes, what is your position? Prosecution, my lord, has no further witnesses or evidence to present. Very well. In that case, as I believe we have explored every possible avenue in this matter, I shall proceed to my adjudication. As a formality, I am of course obliged to confirm with the defense first. What formality? As things stand at the moment, it would seem Mr. McGild will be found not guilty. Which would mean we win. We've won. Is that really the right outcome, though? Is this alright for the trial to come to an end now, with all these unexplained inconsistencies? Counsel of the defense, your closing statement, please. Yes, my lord. The defense believes... While it possibly could be guilty, like I said, I don't trust anyone whatsoever in here. As Mr. McGill's legal representative, I can't breathe. The air in here is stifling. But I'm this man's defense lawyer. There's only one thing I can say in this situation. I believe the defendant, Magnus McGilded, innocent of the allegations brought against him. Thank you, counsel. Here's to you, my friend, and the most abject closing I've yet to hear in a court of law. Order, order! What was a grand decision to appoint you as my lawyer, so it was. A grand decision. You saved me one of London's most influential gentlemen, fella. You should be proud of yourself. Here, have this for your troubles. Ah. Your job here is done, fella. And some fine work you've done, so you have. Oh, what do you mean? Just as the right honorable gentleman so succinctly put it before, the trial can't go on anymore. And your closing statement there was, how do you put it now? Not more than a formality. There's definitely a lot that's unanswered. Wahahaha. He's absolutely guilty of something, but it's not may not be murder. I don't know what to make of all this. Was the evidence we've seen genuine, or was it all fake? His lordship would be fuming. Any unsightly rubbish should be disposed of promptly, as I said. The stinking Ridgeor's guilt is something, mark my words. Well, I don't know about all of them, but this one in particular for sure. I feel terribly ashamed that I ever doubted the lovely man. Now that the proceedings have unfolded in this way, I'm compelled to declare a premature end to this trial. Furthermore, the court must accept the defendant's plea. I thank you kindly, my lord. I hereby pronounce the verdict of this court. But we still haven't determined if the blood stain in the omnibus is genuine or not. We don't know if these witnesses are telling the truth or a pack of lies. We have no idea about the truth. Lord Van Zykes. Hello. This case made by the prosecution was flawed, plain and simple. If indeed the omnibus presented evidence was tampered with, the prosecution is at fault for allowing such a disgraceful preservation of justice to take place. My sincerest apologies, my lord. But wait. When we were ordered from the excavation, he ordered the evidence to be secured. I'm afraid the prosecution cannot shun responsibility in this matter. That's right, he commanded the bailiffs and all that, so he would technically be at fault, I guess. The culpability of the defendant has not at present time been established by this court. Consequently, the jury will not be required to prefer a judgment. What? Well, Lord Van Zykes, it's been a pleasure, so it has. As for you, my dear fella, I couldn't have asked for a better defense. You mean to tell me this has all been a grand waste of time? It is the law of the land, my good lad. If you'd like to pursue this matter further, you can always go ahead and change the law. Magnus McGill. Oh, good grief, you've got more to say to me, have you? Just a one thing, a warning. This is far from over. Well, something to be looking forward to, then. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, I don't think... I'm not sure he's guilty of this murder, but I do think he's definitely guilty of something. I would pronounce the defendant, Mr. McGilded, not guilty. I guess I'm interesting. Is Von Zykes actually a rather upstanding prosecutor? There's actually not very many of those. This is an outrage. I should have examined the evidence more. What do you mean? The man's cleared. He's innocent. Even if he is innocent, even if he is guilty, framing the guilty party isn't a good idea, but he's innocent, well, forging evidence to make him look even more innocent isn't any better either. Yeah, that's the whole point that's the point I was trying to get at. With the courtroom in pandemonium for the second time, the judge delivers a verdict, and my first ever trial in Great Britain came to an abrupt end, with the defendant being found not guilty, ostensibly a victory for us. I generally have no regrets picking that last decision. No doubt, Mr. McGilded is not a very pleasant individual. However, we are his defense attorney, and I feel the truth is a lot more complex than here. So while it is an unsatisfying conclusion, when all else fails, I'm the defense attorney. I have to go with him who says he's innocent. Certainly was a long trial. Ah, yes, it was. Well, it wasn't nearly as long as the first case, that's for sure. Your first ever trial in foreign soil, your first victory. It was a wonderful performance. Why, heartfelt congratulations. And to you, Mrs. Otto, thank you for your assistance. I suppose we should be happy. The trouble is, we're still completely in the dark about what actually happened. Well, we didn't have enough time. But isn't it wrong? I mean, who is actually responsible for Mr. Mason's death? We don't even know that. The sole aim of the defense is to obtain a verdict that exonerates the defendant. You carried out your duty to perfection. Why, that you did. Mr. McGilded. Ah, and that girl's with him too. Oh, well, it seems the stories are true. What stories? About the 6 enormous fireworks they do be letting off when they get a verdict of not guilty. I'm sure you must have seen them now. Spectacular, wouldn't you say? Yeah, definitely. Better a sight to behold, and to be sure it was. And of you to thank, I suppose, for having the opportunity to see it. I don't know about that. I'm not sure I really did much of anything. I don't know what they're saying, fella. How else did I walk out of there a free man? I'm not sure it was thanks to me as down to your planning. You're a straight-talking fella, aren't you? I must say you had me astray in the head there once or twice. But you're young and headstrong. Wahaha. Just water under the bridge. Congratulations, Mr. McGilded, on having your name cleared. But nothing's resolved. There's only one thing that matters to me. Oh, and what's that? Aye. They've all seen that I didn't do that odious and obstinate deed. 'Tis grand, is it not? I suppose it is, yeah. Now, the fine fellows of Scotland Yard can take matters into their hand and sort out any wee details. Ah, they'll see it for what it is. They'll get to the truth. That's true, we're a lawyer, not a detective. I have absolute faith in them, so I have, after all. I do be providing a good number of their wages with all the taxes I pay. Oh. It's not that funny. So then, what are you getting for it, 1,000 for your troubles, fella? Oh no, I couldn't possibly accept that much. But it is noble people, aren't you from the East? Well, if you insist. But have this still and all. You deserve a reward. Mr. Magnus McGilded. Everything is ready, sir. If you'd like to follow me into the courtroom. Into the courtroom? What's this, officer? It is sooner than I was led to believe. Hope it's not inconvenient, sir. There were some changes to the schedule. Well, I must be making tracks now. It's time for the inspection. What inspection? They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. Asked if I could be present for it myself. They're going to examine it again? Now? Naturally, I'm under no obligation to take part in any more of this matter. But as an upstanding member of London society, I do my best to help where I can. It's a gentlemanly duty it is. So then, fare thee well. 'Twas an absolute pleasure meeting you. Hope you have a whale of a time studying here in Great Britain. And there he goes, a free man. Oh, I forgot she was here too. Don't move. Whereas I want to say, get a move on. She really does take forever to load that thing. Miss Lestrade, would you mind putting that thing down? You're a grown. I'm sorry. And I ain't all the grown-ups. Ah, there you are. Naughty, naughty, running off like that. Is this some kind of picnic? Who's this little girl now? And take that with you as well. I was looking forward to the trial run of the experimental smoke grenade launcher. Ha. Oh, do you want to play? You won't beat me. Wow, that's like, this is that meme where each one brings out a different, bigger and bigger weapon. Excuse me, but who are you? Oh, good day to you, I'm well. The inventor, I suppose, of that machine. The inventor? Well, no, they're so dull. We'll just make it white and more white. If you want to be shrouded in smoke, it could at least be a pretty color, I thought to myself. Do we have to be shrouded in smoke? Smoke, though, at all? I just took my off from one while I was going to a different omnibus, and she pinched it. Luckily, I fitted a beacon. But I have no idea what this girl is even talking about. Anyway, come with me now. Back to my lab. What for? Apologize, silly, to my technician. You mean, say so. Mr. Sutter, found something wrong. Surely an adult has told you that. An adult? Don't listen to no adults. Come along then, follow me. Behind, have a doorway. Oh, good. You see, I knew you'd want to do the right thing. I'm fairly sure that what she wants is to not get shot by that massive bazooka. Alright, we'll be leaving now then. Bye-bye. I'm so sorry for all the fuss. She was a lively one. On our way now too? Yeah, you're right, but where to? Time to find a place to stay. No sooner than we have arrived in London than we had to rush here. And our traveling cases are still with... Well... Zykes is definitely probably not one of the more corrupt ones. I mean, there's been way more corrupt prosecutors in this series, but at the same time, I still do think he's all too convenient to him personally. Like I said, he certainly is never with quote-unquote courts of motion when the defendant was about to be pronounced guilty within like 5 minutes from starting, before they even pull evidence, mind you. The prosecution didn't even have all their evidence yet. People were still, yet he's had them with the early guilty verdict. I'm sure he's playing Spain today in search of lodgings, but this late hour in the day, I'm for luck. Don't worry though, I have a plan. Forest Cup is a lovely park. Please tell me you're not thinking of a gilded park. No, it'll be a little chilly this time of year, but our youthfulness will see us through. I'm not so sure about that. I think a midwinter London might freeze a young person solidly as easy as a one. Oh dear, that doesn't sound agreeable. Now I'm starting to gild it down. That 1,000 would have paid for a lovely warm mansion. Yeah, that wasn't the price movie handles debts. So if he ever decided to say, oh, but you still owe me a favor in the future, that would have been awful. Well, and so the trial determined my worthiness for the study tour was over by the end of our first day in London. However, as we were soon learned, there are more trying times ahead. Just as the Reaper of Bailey had warned, the case was far from over.
What's going on? The fire brigade! Water! Bring water, quick! How did this...
I don't know, sir. By the time I got here, it was already engulfed.
No one was supposed to get in here before we started investigating. No. Oh, good God. There's someone in here. Oh. This can't be.
Someone's in there, but was that Mr. McGilded? Or was it someone else, some other poor soul that they couldn't allow to live? The Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro. I've only been going about... You know what, let's continue the next case 4 here. Simply because I've got a bit of time, let's keep going a little longer. The Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro.
I begin to think, Wilson, Jones, turning his head languidly in my direction, that there is more to this case than that which served. Indeed, that there may be another that we are yet to discover. Following the steam rising from his cup of tea, leading him to the distant memory of that sunny evening. To the young lady collapsed on the pavement along Briar Road, and to the knife in her back. Lit in the soft glow of gas lamps, a most ordinary scene had been set. And under the cover of a light risen silently on the insoluble mystery of our invisible killer.
Did you sleep last night, Mr. Naruhodo? No, not at all. It was an enormous hotel, wasn't it? The rooms were so luxurious, it's like we were staying in a palace. And with all the gaslights twinkling, it was brighter than day, in the middle of the night. What about the enormous beds after my time on the SS Buria? Go into that space. Spend the entire night rolling side to side. Oh yes, it really was the sort of night you can only dream of normally. Except, when I learned we were owed 3 pounds for the room, it turned to a nightmare. The building was so impressive, the entrance so inviting, I just wandered in without thinking. In a lodging house in Japan, that some money would put a roof over your house or headed for you. I tried, but I'm afraid I couldn't help my tears when you were presented with the bill. Really, I'm sorry. Well, never mind, we must afford it. If you're not careful, the entire strip end will be used up in 10 days or less. London's a scary place. Good morning to you at this early hour. This guy's got an imposing figure. Oh, yes, well. Good morning to you, Lord Chief Justice. We've come to report on the outcome of the trial, and the Old Bailey is amazing. She doesn't bat an eyelid, even in the presence of the imposing Lord Strongheart. Yes, I believe you had a very comprehensive initiation to the British courtroom practices. Oh, yes, it was very eye-opening. Thank you. And in accordance with your instructions, Lord Strongheart, Mr. Naruhodo performed his duty to the end. Yes, I've already been appraised of the events. You conducted a remarkable defense. You may consider the test passed. No longer are you a student from the Empire of Japan. You may henceforth claim to be a full-fledged lawyer. My country is delighted to welcome young talent from a remote eastern land. Oh, thank you very much. So I'm officially a lawyer now. Now, in view of your new appointment, I have a fresh case in mind for you. I'd like you to take it on at once. I trust that that won't be a problem. Oh, another case already. Nothing trains a lawyer better than practical experience. Well, that is a good point. I'm sure I don't sense dissatisfaction, do I? It's just that yesterday's trial ended, unusually. I guess I haven't quite come to terms with it. What's comes to terms with? The man was cleared. What more were you hoping for? Culpability of the defendant has not at the present time been established by the court. Yeah, it's very unsatisfactory, but the judge isn't wrong. Strictly speaking, that is on the prosecution for failing to properly present the case. So I can worry about it later. Yeah, this is just a recap on the end of the events in the last one. This would have actually been quite good if I had decided to end the stream there, but I'd like to at least do some investigating. I think I'll end the stream once I actually get to the part where I am asked to investigate, but we still have a lot of stuff to do. We have a lot of stuff to go through. I guess I can't help wondering if Mr. McGilda really was innocent. Mr. Naruhodo. It's just I've never managed to ascertain the truth when the trial ended. Well, you needn't let it trouble you for a second longer. Sorry? Oh, what do you mean, Lord Strongheart? Mr. McGilded passed away immediately following the trial. So he was the one trapped inside. What, Mr. McGilded is dead? I have 19 minutes and 41 seconds until my next engagement. Time enough to talk. Mr. McGilded's death. I don't understand. What happened? How can he be dead? After the trial concluded yesterday, there was a great commotion in the Old Bailey. As you'll presumably recall, an omnibus had been wheeled in the courtroom. Yeah, of course, that was the scene of the crime in which Mr. McGilded had been accused. Precisely. Well, while the bailiff's attention was diverted by another matter, the omnibus went up in flames. No. How could such a thing have happened? This isn't being investigated as we speak, but already the police have identified a corpse found inside the charred shell of the carriage is that of Mr. McGilded. That's awful. I mean, he was a scumbag, but he didn't deserve to die. What an awful way to go. The man must have slipped inside whilst the bailiff's attention was elsewhere. That bailiff really needs to pay more attention. Not only was it highly possible that the evidence had been tampered with, but he somehow missed that Mr. McBailiff went into there and got locked inside before it went up in flames. How could that have happened? That is also being investigated as we speak. So many questions, but thinking back now. Immediately after the trial, Mr. McGilded did mention going back to the courtroom when we went to look at the omnibus. Well, I must be making tracks now. It is time for the inspection. While it's entirely possible that he was the one who tampered with it, and that seems to be the general implication the game is giving, it is entirely possible someone else tampered with it to make it easier for him, or perhaps he was innocent but still paid someone to mess it with it just to make an innocent party look even more innocent. So, yeah, this was definitely an unsatisfying way to go, and he didn't deserve that, I still say, even if he was a scumbag. An inspection of the omnibus? Not to my knowledge. I don't believe Scotland Yard had any intention of re-examining the carriage. That means someone lured him in, specifically lured him there. Then who is Mr. McGilded talking about? Well, never mind that now. The Scotland Yard is making a thorough investigation of the whole thing. This matter is no longer any concern of yours, leave it to the police. Yeah. Or Mr. McGilded. So, how did you find your first taste of our country's Supreme Court? Oh, well, I'm not a... put it into words, I mean, wow. Mr. Naruhodo means the whole experience was steeped in some of Great Britain's long history. It's really a world apart from our own judicial system in Japan, which is only a few short decades old. Wow, Susato-san is such a way with words. You seem to have a way of failing to find the right ones. The judicial system here is the most advanced in the world. Learn all you can. Most advanced in the world, is it? It was fortunate that your very first trial was a simple affair. Simple? That was simple? As I believe I mentioned yesterday morning, it was a trial you couldn't really lose. I don't mean to be Mr. Contrary, Lord Strongheart, but the case was anything but simple. The circumstances of the case were so incriminating, I was stunned when I first heard them. In fact, I'm still finding it hard to believe we managed to get a favorable verdict there. Is, something funny, sir? No, my apologies. However, the fact is that you did receive the not guilty verdict you set out to achieve. And that can only be attributed to exceptional talent, wouldn't you agree? Well, I don't know about that, but... Well, never mind. You exceeded my expectations, I freely admit. That much at least is an undeniable truth, which is precisely I've prepared the new case for you that I mentioned before. Yeah, I think he might simply be saying that whatever would have happened, McGilded would have paid his way out of it in some way, shape, or form. That's all. Not to mention that, of course, if McGilded really did tamper with it, whether he was guilty or innocent, that could also be something Stronghart was somehow aware of. What's going on? What was he going to say before? The new case. Could you perhaps give us more detail about the new case you mentioned? Don't tell me it's a murder and the trial starts in 10 minutes again. Oh, don't worry, it's not so alarming or as urgent as your last assignment. In fact, this case is completely different. Oh, I see. Did he just read my mind? That is to say, no one has died as yet. And the trial will not be today. There is plenty of time to research the case thoroughly. 23 hours, 43 minutes, and 19 seconds to be precise. So the trial's tomorrow then. Alright, is everything alright? Oh, yes, I'm just a little confused, that's all. Yesterday's trial was, well, left me wondering if I'm really cut for being a lawyer. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. I don't know if I could face standing in that courtroom again after Mr. McGilded's trial. Yes, I nearly forgot. There is one similarity with yesterday's case, however. Once again, there is currently no one to advocate for the defense. Oh. If the situation remains unchanged, the trial will start tomorrow with the defendant unrepresented and he'll have to defend himself. If that happens, I need not remind you of the inevitable outcome. The most terrible end awaits the defendant. Yeah, he'll have to defend himself, and most people aren't sufficiently equipped to do that. Yes, that's right. Here we go again. Alright, your time is up. You will have to excuse me. I would advise you begin making preparations for tomorrow's trial. After all, the clock is ever ticking. There is but now 23 hours, 26 minutes, and 39 seconds until the court sits. Last time he mentioned the 23 hours, he said there was plenty of time. Oh, and one more thing, Mr. Naruhodo. There's something I would like to ask you. Oh, what's that? Yesterday you remarked upon something... that you intend to see through the will of your late compatriot, Mr. Sogi. I would be interested to hear what exactly you mean by that. Inside 34 seconds. Oh. Well, Kazuma always used to say that he wanted to learn how the greatest justice system in the world works so he could change ours in Japan. Now that he's gone, I'd like to work towards that myself. Oh, and there's another thing. Continue. On the way here on the steamship, he said something to me. Something very important I have to do. Something very important. And what exactly would that be? He never had a chance to tell me. I suppose he would have done if he ever made it to Great Britain. You're out of time. Well, thank you for an enlightening discussion. Naruhodo, what's this all about? Mr. Asogi never once mentioned anything of the sort to me. I urge you both to focus your attentions on the matter at hand. Yeah, I agree. We can worry about the big... I've taken the liberty of summoning the police inspector in charge of the case. He'll be here to appraise you for details. How long has he been there? So I wish you the best of luck, and bid you farewell. Whatever the secret mission Asogi had... the Kazuma had... It's entirely possible Stronghart and the Japanese government knew of it, but Rhinosuke doesn't. And learning whether or not he did was part of the reason he asked that question. There's something very important I have to do. Kazuma-sama, what did you mean? I wish I knew, but honestly he never told me. Anyway, we better talk to the detective, don't you think? Yes, you're right. Hope I'm just imagining it, but I wouldn't say he looks pleased to see us at all. This must be the Lord Chief Justice's desk. I believe it's made of marble. Looks more like an over-the-top tombstone that toppled over to me. I think that's your fanciful imagination at work, Mr. Naruhodo. Feels like everything that's normally made of wood and paper at home is made of bricks and stone here. I know, that's why this place feels so overbearing, I'm sure. this some kind of clock? Actually, I think we might be inside some sort of giant clock. Those gears, larger than anything you'd find on a steam locomotive even. It's eerie, don't you think? Clocks are some sort of hobby of his. Lord Chief Justice, me. He does, well, boys do enjoy fiddling around with machines, don't they? Not sure he could fiddle with cogs that size. And I'm certainly certain you couldn't call him a boy. It's amazing how little noise the cogs make, considering how large they are. There's actually something quite soothing about their precise rhythm. A suit of armor. Look at these menacing metal giants facing each other across the room. I believe they're, yes, they're suits of armor. Oh, right. Thought maybe they're like the lion dogs we have in Japan guarding the shrine gates. No, not at all. In fact, in Europe, suits of armor like these are always possessed by evil spirits, you know. And they roam around in the middle of the night. Really? Is there nothing you don't know? Well, this book tells me everything I do need to know about everything. If you're ever unsure, just ask, where did she get that incredible tome? Just look at all these books packed together on these shelves. They go from the floor to the ceiling. And they're all the books you couldn't hope to come by in Japan. It's like a dream. Yeah, a very bad dream. They're not all about British law either. There's some books about the judicial system of other Western nations. France, Germany, Spain, Holland. What about Russia? Why do you ask? I was wondering about asking Lord Chief Justice how you'd say wardrobe in Russian. I think perhaps it's a thought best abandoned. The inspector. I think that's what they call fish and chips. Can we trouble you? What do you think? Ah, lovely weather, isn't it? What's the weather got to do with anything? Listen to me, young Japanese upstart. Some flipper about the weather doesn't get every English at her hand, you know? But Susato told me it was foolproof. I'm a busy man, about a busy man. There's a crime scene to investigate, but I'm here having to give the likes of you a talking to. Oh, I'm ever so sorry. Could imagine what the other officers will be saying. Haven't seen Gregson anywhere, have you? No, he's too busy with the bigwigs these days. Oh, 'cause some bumpkin who's here on a jaunt from a country I've never even heard of. Hear that ripping sound? That's my reputation in the yard going to tatters. There's no need to rip us apart as well. I don't believe we've been introduced. This is Mr. Ryanosuke Naruhodo, defense lawyer. Eh? It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Naruhodo's judicial assistant. Eh? It's lovely weather happening today, isn't it? It's unseasonably fine, Agranto. London winters don't see a lot of sunshine. Unbelievable, how'd she pull that off? So, Lord Strongheart asked me to fill in on the case. The name's Tobias Gregson. Inspector Gregson to you. I'm from Scotland Yard. Oh, Gregson, Inspector Gregson. What's the matter with Susato? Does this detective's name mean something to her? Inspector, are you perhaps, the Inspector Gregson? You're acting like you know this man, Miss Susato, but he's a London detective. Oh, I don't know. I do know him very well, in fact, very well. Yes, he features prominently in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Oh, in that publication. What's it called again? Rand's magazine? That's right, Inspector Gregson and Mr. Sholmes enjoy a friendly rivalry. Really, you rival the great Sherlock Holmes. That's Mr. Sholmes. That's incredible. Oh, well, I don't know about that. Mr. Sholmes isn't a professional like myself, of course, but he does come up with the goods from time to time. He is equally complimentary about you, isn't he? You've earned his highest praise. Gregson's pick of a bad lot of all. He's forgotten the others. Those were his own words. That's his highest praise. Well, Mr. Sholmes isn't particularly known for giving compliments, you see. That is no. And thanks to that magazine, my name's known all over London town now. And that's great, isn't it? I have to admit that to start with, I was a little flattered by all the attention. Everyone wanted to shake my hand, my reputation at the yard went through the roof. That's wonderful. Oh, no, it's not. There's nothing more sinister than man on the street. Laura's looking at me now. They're whispering rumors under their breath, I'm sure. Rumors? Are you quite sure? He's changed, he's starting to appear in the stories. Fame's gone to his head. Stuff like that. Has your fame gone to your head? Do you think people are saying such mean-spirited things about you? Like I said, they whisper, so I can't catch exactly what they're saying. But I know what folks are like. I'm sure that's what they're saying, sure as eggs are eggs. I get the feeling this detective could be a very hard work. Oh dear, perhaps sudden rise in fame does change people. Alright, case. So, about the case that Lord Chief Justice mentioned before. Nothing to tell, really. As far as we're concerned about the yard, it couldn't be simpler. Oh dear. That probably means, as far as we're concerned as lawyers, it couldn't be more complicated. I wish you were wrong about that, but I have a nasty feeling you're right. A young woman walking along the pavement of Briar Road when she was stabbed from behind. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal, but she's still laid up in the hospital unconscious. That's despicable. What coward would attack one from behind? I suppose you have finished whoever it was off with your Susato takedown, would you? That's neither here nor there, Mr. Naruhodo. Brace yourself, Rhinosuke. You've angered her now. Anyway, after something of a whirlwind investigation, the criminal was arrested. He had barely time for a cup of tea after the incident took place, to be honest. So there must have been something left at the scene that led you directly to the culprit. Or perhaps a reliable witness who recognized the person in question. Need to take a sip here. Might drink on the side. There we go. Feel a lot better now. Let me stop her right there. You're wasting your time on this one. I'm sorry. Well, there's nothing I can do. There's no way to help the bloke now. Why ever not? Simple. The prosecutor that's been assigned to the trial tomorrow is Lord Bardock von Zykes? No. Sounds like you've heard of them then. Oh, yes, we are very familiar with Lord Van Zykes. Believed to be the Hairbringer of Death itself. The Reaper of Bailey. Lord Baron von Zykes, who we faced in court only yesterday. Mr. McGilda told about him before the trial, didn't he? When von Zykes stands the prosecution, they can call the accused as sacrificial lambs. In every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. This Reaper of Bailey nickname, I suppose he's earned that because every defendant he advocates against is found guilty, is that it? Well, if that's the case, we should inform you, Inspector, that in yesterday's trial against Lord Van Zykes, Mr. Naruhodo secured a verdict of not guilty. What of it? Oh, well, I think, that means even against the Reaper of Bailey, it's not impossible to save the defendant. Oh, you really don't have a clue, do you? What do you mean? What happened to the bloke in the end, eh? He's dead. Magnus McGilda came a cropper on the omnibus when it went in the frames. So I can't rightfully say you saved the defendant, can you? Well, what are you saying? Look, if Van Zykes could get the dirt to stick on everyone, he'd be a miracle worker. Look, if... Oh! So he's not an undefeated prosecutor. Look, if Van Zykes could get the dirt to stick on everyone, he'd be a miracle worker. But that's not how it goes. He doesn't work miracles, he works magic. Black magic. I'd have a good long think about that if I were you. Are we really supposed to believe that? Interesting, so it could have been him who set it up. After all, he was the one commanding the bailiffs. Right, well, I've filled you as the requested. I'm very nearly out of chips. So I'll be heading back to the crime scene now. We're still carrying out a few investigations there. You know, sometime I'd actually like to have British fish and chips. That's basically fish and fries, isn't it? Actually sounds quite tasty, although very greasy. That was Briar Road, you said, didn't you, where the incident took place? That's correct, Mom. And if you head over to the holding cells, you can meet the criminal himself. You branded him a criminal already? He's good as, shaken as a leaf. Certainly is. Oh, he'll give you a chuckle, nothing else. He's inmate 53. Speak to the jailer, he'll show you the way. Inmate 53, thank you. So there's no helping anyone against the Reaper of Bailey, they say. Yeah, I was figuring the implication was supposed to be a guilty verdict, but then, as we saw in previous Ace Attorney games, if they say a prosecutor is undefeated, then they'll directly say he's undefeated. I guess it makes sense. He doesn't always win. So Van Zykes doesn't always necessarily win his cases, but the person he goes up against always does meet a terrible fate. That said, it does seem the defense lawyer themselves is immune. Though I guess that makes sense. Strictly speaking, the defense lawyer is there to assist the accused and represent them. They are not guilty of whatever they're not found innocent or guilty of the exact same crime of whatever them. That would be a bit ridiculous, honestly. And yeah, I do know there was one episode of Justice League that kind of worked with that, but that was clearly only done for the sake of the drama in the episode. It doesn't... While I understand that people aren't a fan of lawyers, they are kind of used for a reason. As proven by the fact whenever someone tries to defend themselves, it usually doesn't go well. At the end of the day, a courtroom is basically a big debate, and if you're not good at debating, and... Yeah, as a fan of, like, Fire Emblem and SMT, I argue with basically everyone, but even I have to say I'm pretty bad at it. I would absolutely not want to represent myself in court, that's for sure. So you have to be especially good at that kind of debate in order to handle it, and not everyone can. Not everyone's been trained in it, or has a talent for it. To tell the truth, when I recall the trial yesterday, I can't stop myself from shaking. The idea of facing the Reaper in court again is... Well, if you think it's too much for you, there is no shame in turning the case down. That takes courage, too. But if the man they've arrested is innocent, you could do well to imagine he was shaking like a leaf in his cell. And I, for one, wouldn't find the sight of that funny. So, if I'm honest, I'm still reeling from the shock of yesterday's events myself. I'm really not sure if I'll be able to help this man, whoever he is. I'd like to try, so I'm going to make some inquiries. Will you help? Do you really think you had to ask? After all, I'm your judicial assistant. Thank you. So then, shall we? Let's go. This explains why he said it's not a murder, or at least not a murder yet. Alright, we're gonna start with the prison. Inmate 53. The 19th of February. Local prison. Cell 9. So these are the British prison cells. I'll end the stream once we finally meet the defendant, and I'll save and quit. Oh, they're ghastly. Feels like a dungeon. Yeah, and having experienced it in Japan myself, I can assure you that our wooden cells feel a lot cozier than these stone wooden walls. Oh, don't, Mr. Naruhodo, you're making it seem worse. Apparently, our client is in the cell here, but it's so dark at the back I can't make him out. I wonder what he's like. Inmate 53, your legal representative, is here to see you. Stop idling in the back of the cell and show your face at once. Am I? A cat with no name? Calling by number? It's utterly unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable. I refuse to answer. Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think is going on here? I have no idea, but I wasn't just hearing things, was I? The tirade of complaints was in Japanese. Excuse me, but who... Shh, quiet. They're all around, hiding. I know they are. They're watching, listening, even now. Sense it. Right. So could I ask you, who exactly... There you are, you've come to curse me, haven't you? Don't try to hide it, you're a ghost. A ghost? I know some people are scared of lawyers, but... I mean, no harm, prisoner-san, are you... Japanese by any chance? This is... beyond my wildest dreams. Forgive me for that outburst before, I'm so sorry. Oh, it's fine, we were just a little surprised, that's all. Imagine it's been 12 long months since I left my hometown. Here I am, in a frightful fix in a foreign land. Hearing the sweet, sentimental tones of a compatriot's voice here in this damp, dark hellhole was a most monumentally moving moment. Who could have guessed this new client assigned to us would turn out to be a fellow Japanese man. What compassion my fellow countrymen show to dispatch a first-class lawyer all the way from Japan to defend a mere foreign student. Noble, nurturing, never failing Nippon. First-class lawyer? Oh dear. I think there's been something of a misunderstanding here. I wonder, would you be so kind as to tell us what's happened? Why you've been detained as a suspect, for example? Yes I can, and I will. I shall not stay sullen and silent. I'm not quite sure I understand what he means, but he seems happy. Yes, he does. I just hope he actually has a good reason to be. Thank you for your cooperation. As a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, as you said. My name is Ryanosuke Naruhodo. And I'm Naruhodo-san's judicial assistant, Sasu. I am a visiting student sent here by our government. No bleeding. The name Natsume. Sosuke Natsume. Alright, I think now seems like a good time to save, so we're going to do precisely that. We're in the investigation case, part of case 4, and we're going to be first speaking with our client to find out what's going on here, and then investigate the crime scene next time. Alright. I've already saved, so I'll be fine. Ooh, I like how the background changes to be based on what position, based on what's going on at the time. Oh, that's really cool. Alright. Thank you for watching. Hope you had a good time. I saved my VODs for as long as Twitch allows. If you need them, they'll be there. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.